I myself went through a process like yourself of complete transmutation. First of all, I was very much involved within the UFO Department of Study. I still am today, but within its rawness and nuts and bolts aspect, still not trying to understand, still not understanding, how this was so and where they all were, where the evidence was, where the proof was. And then moving then to the, experiences that I had at close range with UFOs, and I mean close range. And then, of course, the abduction in 1989, and then moving forward then to the psychic element, which opens up another area for me of hope, of hope. And then, of course, of the reality of knowing that we do not die. And then moving even further into the UFO field, but then encompassing other areas of dynamics within the models of within theoretical content, and trying to draw connections to those other areas that we deem as the paranormal. And there are incredible connections to be made. And I believe that we are all here for a purpose. And underneath all of that, love is the most powerful element within the entire universe. It is the most incredible element that creates, that can build, that can manifest all of these wonderful things. And it has to come from a pure heart. It must come from the containment of a pure soul, of pure spirit, as it were.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I am very excited to start this conversation. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together.
And I'm your co-host, Light Being Love, also known as Leslie, and an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And I'm grateful to be here. Philip?
Hi, and I'm Philip Kinsella, and I'm so honored to be joined by Leslie and Ali and Justin on this prestigious program to talk all things supernatural and consciously expansion, all that type of thing. It's wonderful.
Yes, all of that. So for our audience that may not be familiar with Philip is a celebrated author, clairvoyant medium, and UFO paranormal investigator. With numerous books and articles under his belt, Philip's groundbreaking work has captivated audiences worldwide. Join us as we delve into Philip's fascinating experiences, from his revolutionary insights on the Greys and abduction phenomenon to his in-depth investigations of the infamous Rendlesham Forest Incident in Suffolk, England. Philip has shared his expertise on national and international TV, including the renowned Coast to Coast show, along with numerous documentaries by varied companies. In addition, he has received awards for his dedication to the truth within UFO research, and Philip was also credited with a revolutionary speculation back in 1998 surrounding the Greys and the abduction phenomenon. But that's not all. Philip's talents as clairvoyant medium has earned him the British Mediumship Award. His soul survival evidence has made him a sought-after figure in the paranormal community. Alongside with his identical twin brother Ronald, Philip has written extensively on the mysteries of the universe and the afterlife. He has lectured extensively and is currently working on some new projects in his search for the truth.
Well, you couldn't put it any more beautifully. And I have to say to all of you that each and every one of us are a grand part of this unfolding drama that we call life. And I did like what you said there, Leslie, about a temporary existence. And I absolutely, totally agree with you. And that is another area that is fascinating in terms of the reincarnational aspect, which I have a very great interest in. And this is where part of the problem is within our world, not just within life after death or cryptozoology or ufology, but everything has been kind of like put into a little box. And the system that we serve is so absolutely confident that we will not be able to make those connections in any way. But we can try. I can assure you of that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try.
Yes.
Yes, it's happening. I feel like there is a push. There's definitely something happening, and the dots are being connected, and
Yes.
we're helping with that, doing this.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
part of that is linked primarily to the fact that if we go back to the 80s and most notably the 90s, most of these subject matters which you and me and many other millions of people on this planet are really interested in was all kind of like contained and separated. But now look and see where we are. I mean, our thoughts, our processing, our transmutation is incredible from the way that we think back to where we were from the original models of these phenomena, as they call them, and to where we are now. So it's because of you and many other people that have broken away from the systematic mental subjugation, the control, and looked into these areas in their own light, in the way that they see them, and not being restricted by the viewpoint of the system, which continuously imposes this rather depressing existence. I've never, unfortunately, been able to understand any of it, but I agree wholeheartedly there, most definitely, yes.
Wow. I love your outlook on everything, because a lot
Yeah.
of people walk around kind of like horses with blinders on, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? They just kind of like stay in their lane and don't want to know what's around them. Kind of like what is that, the cave prophecy? Where not it's not a prophecy, but it's like a story about somebody in a cave putting shadows on the wall, and the people in the cave think that the shadows on the wall are like what reality is. But in reality, there's people with fire and light making those shadows, making them think that their reality is what it is. Meanwhile, it's not. I hope I explained that
Yes.
well. I hope I did.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
I'll have to edit something in to explain myself.
I understand. I think systematically, the populace at large has been programmed, and this programming has not just happened. It's been going on for thousands of years, as we all know.
Yes.
And this is why, not jumping too far ahead, but we're hearing so much about disclosure
Yes.
within the annals of UFO study. And I still maintain myself that that is going to be very difficult, because if we look at the whole entire spectrum within ufology, the system that we serve, most notably the media cartel, that obviously
Yeah.
given its scripts by the masters, has told people no, they don't exist. UFOs are not real. And then we find that the acronym has now changed from UFO to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, and non-human intelligence as opposed to extraterrestrial. So,
Yes.
Right.
and a couple of other wonderful researchers that I know, Barry Fitzgerald from Ireland and Steve Mira, a very brilliant man here in
We've
the UK.
spoken with Steve.
We talked to him. We talked to him for 4
We love
hours.
him. We love him. Love him so much. And
Yes.
they are under the same impression that we are, that in terms of like the way that the system is operating, it's changed these wording for something that doesn't exist. And I can't remember how long ago it was, because we're infused with so much information on a daily basis. I think we're all there. But do you remember we had, for the very first time on our news channels, those bits of information that were coming through from the media itself, and the very first time on the news channel, saying UFOs have crashed here and there.
Yes.
UFOs. And a lot of researchers were scratching their heads thinking, well, this is very strange. What game is the system playing with regards to that? Because first of all, you've told the population that they don't exist. And now all of a sudden you've done a turnabout.
Yeah.
And it all went very quiet. So I think there was some kind of psychological, systematic reasoning for that was quite, to my mind, cynical and very sinister.
Okay.
And I will say for the record that I don't think that the idea of UFO disclosure will be that simple, because I think most of the public will actually, if they're told the truth, not be able to register this, will not be able to absorb this into their psyche, because it's so far removed from the original nuts and bolts connection that we all believed, oh, they're coming from Zeta Reticuli and physical crafts. We're now finding, incredibly, that consciousness is the reality, that we, beyond the flesh, beyond the material, are much more than we've been told that we are. And
Absolutely.
I believe that by the public understanding to some degree that there are alternative dimensions of reality
Mm-hmm.
which are able to temporarily mold into our reality is something that a lot of them are like, no, I can't deal with it. And you can't blame them, bless them, because some of them just want to have their cup of tea
Yep.
and
Yep.
their comforts. God love them.
Right.
But who is to blame here? Before I finish off here, who is to blame? And we know who is to blame: the nameless, faceless bureaucrats within the systematic power system, control system, that we never get to see or meet or know who their names are, although there's whisperings around the corner.
Uh-huh.
So I think, you know, we are moving in extraordinary times, and certainly now very different from where we were back in the 80s.
Yes.
Things have changed, definitely.
For
Do you
sure.
think that because people might not be able to handle the reality, the new paradigm, do you think that's a reason to not disclose?
Well, you are absolutely correct, Justin. And I will tell you that we all know that there's been a silent war going on.
Yes.
It wasn't so silent back in the day because a lot of minds were controlled through fear and subjugation, most notably, if I may say this very lightly, not all of them, because you know, a lot of religious infrastructures are good and they're very helpful towards
Mhm.
people, but the idea behind most of that was to contain and subjugate knowledge, information.
Mm.
And I believe completely and utterly that the reason that the system will not reveal this is because it will totally turn everything around and tell us categorically that the system that we look up to, that is there to protect us,
Is smoke
there
and
to be
mirrors.
Truthful. Absolutely, you've got it.
Is
They
smoke
are
and mirrors.
yeah, and they have lied to the public. And
Yeah.
this is the big thing, a big lie. And
Yeah.
so you'll find, as we all know, they use systematic psychological weaponry, programs to feed in, to distort, to dissemble things. You know, this is where we are at the moment. But a lot of light seekers, light workers, those people who are reaching for the divine, to the highest source of what we represent, are now becoming brighter,
Yes.
lighter within their understanding of what this is all about. And I think that the system that we serve has now got a major problem on its hands because it's now, oops, people are asking questions we don't want to ask them, and more people are pushing forward, and it's like, we can't deal with this.
Yeah.
So we're going to
Right.
try and distract you all into another area of mundane, noddy land, toy world rubbish, you know, but we're like, no, we want to know the truth. That's what you, me, and everyone else here and in the world, those truth seekers are after.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I find it really synchronistic that you asked that question because Patrick
Oh,
was just
yeah,
talking
this
about
morning,
that on
yeah.
Vetted, where people were saying like a reason to keep this from everybody. Like in other words, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling.
A
over my
reason to
words.
not disclose is
There we go. Thank you.
that it would change so many people's paradigm that they would not be able to handle it.
Right.
I think no matter what, we should be told the truth.
Right.
You know,
Like
I
who's to
think
say
they
who can handle what? Like
Yeah.
we were dealt with so much stuff on a daily basis already. I mean, why? Like, what's the truth of reality? Just throw that on the plate. Why not?
Yes, yes.
You
And I
know.
think that with all of us, it's frustrating because we are starting, those of us that is who are sensitive, who are aware, are finding it very difficult to deal with a lot of the negativity that's being pushed around
Yeah.
at the moment because we are
Yeah.
in tune with our higher self, as it were. And yet we're trapped within this incarnation. And I say trapped. We're obviously here for a reason. And that's interesting because I've had some other people talking to me about the process of reincarnation, which is fascinating. And
Yes.
that is, most of that has to be within theoretical content. We know it happens, it's true. But I think going forward here, basically the big question, and this is what's really always astounded me, even when I was a young kid, would you understand? Not so much about the UFO subject that we all know about now, we're kind of finding new information about, but when I was younger, I could never understand that the system we serve was all for the chaos theory or something leaning on faith. Now, faith for the system is wonderful because it can be introduced and, oh, yes, of course, we believe that the earth was created in 6 days by a man with a white beard, and it all just happened, and that's lovely. And then the other part, which is the chaos theory, just very quickly here, that we all derived by some big bang, but we know that cause has to have an effect in some way, so that's even more of a puzzle. But what I was interested in was the genus of the human. the
Okay.
development of the hominid.
Yeah.
Because although we are here today in terms of our thinking and the UFO stuff and everything else, and we're all walking this path, every one of us are important. I don't care if you're the man with the can or here in England, the king with the crown. We're all important, every one of us. But the reality is this: the system has done everything within its power to ensure that we do not make any connections even to our genus. And let me tell you, from what we know
Yeah.
so far through other brilliant researchers, is that the fairy tale Sunday school version that we've been sold within certain religious ideologies, and certainly with the system, tells us a far different story, and one that literally will have your jaw hanging on the floor.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yet it's one that makes complete sense to me. So
Okay.
I believe that our history, first of all, even though we are here within this time and in this space now, our history, I think, has been deliberately scrubbed out, wiped out, washed away,
Yeah.
so that we can bear no relevance to our ancestors from the past and going further back. So I
Wow.
think this is the problem, because we now are like, oh, we are the technological species now. And that's another pointing question. You know, here we are now, and everything going back was all in some form of devolution. No, I think that we are now in our present time going through that devolution far
Oh,
more
wow.
than what most of our ancestors has had before in the past, even though they had fallen. And I think the reason that those epochs had fallen is why we are here today. And this might happen again with those in control, where everything comes tumbling down again.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, right? Yeah, sure.
It is. It is.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling compelled to ask you, like, what's your theory of everything? Like, what's your toe? What's your theory of everything? Like, what do you? However you want to answer that, I'm here for it.
Well, I'll try not to explode the cerebral cortex.
Okay.
I think that we're all looking for that, but it does make sense to assume. I've always thought that we have derived from the main source of all that is, and that main source has separated from the one in order to experience itself on multiple levels of reality. And when I discovered also, although I've got no way of proving this, because you can say anything and then it can lean on someone else's research material or indeed information from the past, but it's the truth. I was shocked when I read within Gnosticism that they had very much the same ideas in an area that was hidden by the religious infrastructures because of the power struggle to get rid of the female energy and bring in more of the dominant male energy. But I believe that perhaps it's possible that we, in a romanticized version, although I think there must be some grave error when we come down here and something's happened on Earth that's trapping us to a degree, or the souls perhaps, to a degree, is that we are an extension of the one, that are like, I suppose you could consider explorers that are coming away and having these unique, wonderful experiences. And beyond those experiences, in most cases, experiencing love, of creativity, of trying to find out more about what you are, what other wonderful people and souls are. Well, they're spirits more than souls, but and then of course we pull back the recording into the one that expands upon the creation process. Hopefully, I do believe, giving us that sense of individuality. But this is interesting because the system that we serve is now intent in creating, and sorry for jumping the gun, transhumanism, which is taking away the identity of self. And interestingly enough, the Greys, or most a faction of them, do come across as like clones, as one hive mind consciousness.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of my theoretical work back in the mid-90s and in present day was arguing the question what these beings were and where they were coming from and why they were interested in the process of reproduction when they themselves could not reproduce through the hybridization program, which could show us several compartments that may be factual in terms of their agenda, or perhaps even something that's going to go wrong with the humans and they're creating a new genus for somewhere else. We don't know. I've brought that into consideration as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's frightening that the system that we serve is so cocky and so silent, so careful, and so patient in the way it's moving things forward into an area that does not serve us as the human. It does not serve us. And in fact, it is trying to disable and destroy individuality, love, creativity, all these things that make us what we are. And, someone asked me not long ago, they said, well, do you think it's our very own people who are working towards an agenda here now to disable humanity? And I said, no, they can't be human. They cannot, because, certain people are, crazy and wild.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, when we reach into the spirit, into the part of that, of what we are, that is true love and humility. That is something that cannot be diminished from the human,
Mm-hmm.
even though there could be errors or, a recorrection on some level. No. So I believe that we are all derived from love, from energy, and and we are energy, because everything vibrates at certain frequencies through the understanding and study of quantum mechanics and going to quantum theory,
Mm-hmm.
showing
Yep.
us that this is incredible area and may answer some extraordinary questions with regards to a lot of the phenomena that's going on today and why it eludes us continuously.
So I guess, all right. So what would you say to people who have had experiences, personal experiences, with the phenomena, and they find it hard when all of a sudden they get a rush of memories because it was triggered by something, right? And
Yeah.
it's hard to deal with and like mentally process and then be able to get it off your chest and tell other people about those experiences. That can be very traumatizing for some people. And what would you recommend those people do to help
Well,
alleviate some of that?
of course, Justin, of course, and totally understandable, absolutely empathically. So, I mean, I can only speak from experience because I had a abduction, one that I remembered, and didn't need to have any form of regression, I guess, because I'm very hard to regress or hypnotize.
Okay.
But in 1989 was an event that was raw and savage. However, it did open some truly extraordinary areas within the human psyche, and also with some kind of like parallels to be made with the experience itself. But I had to live with that. And then
Yes.
I joined a UFO group and spoke to other people. Now, if someone has had, it doesn't matter if it's a positive experience or a negative one. There are good ETs as well as bad ones. Like humans, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
I mean, my goodness me, everyone's trying to put the label on one, and that's why people have attacked me, because I've done primarily the research into the certain area of what happened to me. But we have to understand, as I said, all sides to something. You can't just look at one side. We have to understand the other side to it and embrace it. But I wanted trust, and when I was invited to go on certain programs, invited on, I thought, well, yes, I'm going on to tell the truth, to hopefully get some healing and understanding. But all I got was a barrage of ridicule and
Yeah.
of embarrassing situations. But no, I'm fine with that now. I've grown. We all grow,
Okay.
we develop. I'm stronger now.
Okay.
So a lot of people must understand that their experience is unique to themselves, and it would be good to speak to a UFO group, because primarily within most of those UFO groups you will have someone who is a registered counselor or someone who can do regression, or professionally. So it has to be professionally done to help or guide them, or at least just talk to them to understand. And here's the other thing as well too about this. This is what's really crazy. We as researchers are all looking for patterns. That is important in order to corroborate that the experience is occurring. No different from near-death experience research, when varied people have had certain things happen to them, and if they're all kind of like having the same things, certain degrees happening, we know it's real. The same with the abduction phenomena. It tells us that there are variations and differences between one, like the NDE, and also abductions. But the experience is very personal to the individual. It's like life. Everyone's saying, "Oh, the UFOs are up there in that little box, and you must have this, and you must have that, and all the rest." No, your life is unique to you. How you view your reality, how you create it, how you map it, how you design it is down to you. No one else, unless we let people come in and muck it up, which invariably does happen, by the way, and throw us off our path. So I say to the person, however crazy that the experience may seem to the individual, if they've had that experience, and I'm not talking about those who deliberately lie or they fabricate things in order
Right.
to get somewhere. I mean, I've never wanted to get anywhere except to the truth, trust me,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
remain grounded. And with that truth is where we should all remain. I mean, we
Yes.
all sometimes have our disagreements or fallouts. It's human nature. You know, none of us are perfect in terms of understanding with one to the other, but there's a careful balance that I like to have. So I will say to anyone that's had experiences to, okay, understand that other people are out there who've had their experiences as well. For instance, UFOs are seen in different shapes, different sizes. You know, some people see triangular crafts, some will see spherical crafts. I've even seen one of those Foo Fighter things when I was younger, the size of a football,
Oh, wow.
with our maternal grandmother, yeah, in broad daylight with my brother and my grandmother, at close range. So,
Wow.
and then people will say, well, it has to be this, and no, it doesn't.
Mm-mm.
Because when the phenomena comes in, when it starts to morph within our reality, and then even go even further into that, making that connection with you on a very strong psychic link, your interpretation of those events will be very different from someone else's. So this is indeed very highly complex mentally, emotionally, and in a lot of cases spiritually as well.
Mm.
So we know that the experiences are unique to the individual, and I will tell you, even though I went through the negative experience back in 1989 that I saw as negative, has opened up other areas within my mind. I'm not saying that that was the event that happened, but I believe that the shock perhaps allowed other things to open for me, and then led me into my quest for consciousness with the wonderment of life after death, the need from the heart to find them who have crossed over, take away the religious ideologies, which are important constructs for many, as long as it doesn't destroy or control people, but the need inside to understand what we are, what I was, what this all meant. And I think the hardest point for me was the system tells you, well, you live and die. That's it. There's no more you. You just toil the soil. You pay your taxes. You ask no questions. No, no, no. No, 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 no. Hang on just a minute. And then just going a little bit further, the multi-complex issues now of the human, which we believe that we ultimately only represent, is now in question. Because we have to understand that there are other systems of reality. And finishing off here, because I don't want to rule the show here, but looking
No,
at
you're
other
great.
systems of reality, if we take one adept, one master, Thoth, for instance, just one, and the incarnation process where that did seem to happen with him, and bringing that great knowledge from his realm through to our realm, uninhibited by the restricted flow of conscious awareness that we have within our subsequent recording in this life. So we can see that, Thoth and many other masters had not, I feel, derived here from this world. So I believe that, this is going to open up and it has already begun to open up a whole can of worms, but not in a negative way, but in a way that's saying, look, this tiny planet in the middle of nowhere, you've got all this space, my goodness me, and it's not just the space, not just the dark matter, it's also the levels of vibration and dimensions of reality that may and do, I know, but even for them may supersede this reality, this construct. So yes, absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly vast, and you will need to do your seatbelt up as you're going to start taking a very fast ride out of Earth and somewhere else. So hold on to your brain and onto your stomach as well while you're at it, because it's a fast ride.
Put your seatbelt on, guys. We're going for a ride.
Yeah, I'm here for
You
it.
bet.
The near-death experiences were a big part of opening me up more to the paranormal or the extraterrestrial and all of that. Somehow, I feel like there's lots of stuff that's put out there from mediums as well, and I was very open to that. And prior to the NDEs, I was watching mediums do what they do, and I just found it fascinating. And yeah, we are definitely, spiritual beings having a human experience,
Oh, yes.
and there's all these different dimensions and realities, and I'm starting to think that really it's all possible. Like everything that we can think of is happening in all theories, maybe, on some other, I feel like I'm coming to the point where it's very like a mental type universe, and not to take away of who we are, because I think, we all need to be empowered with the knowledge of and understanding that we are much more than we think we are when we come here. And especially for those who, have difficult lives. I'm just going off now and getting deep with things.
No, you're okay.
People have challenging lives. I think that's a big part of this earth experience is to experience, challenges and struggles and all this. And for I guess growth to grow spiritually. But yeah, I would like have all these theories, and then more questions come up on like why this and why that. But so I guess I could ask you one of my questions here is what do you believe is the ultimate purpose or destiny of humanity in the context of the universe and other intelligent life forms?
Well, we have to evolve, I think. And that's interesting about mediumship of clairvoyance, because I am just literally a receiver, a transmitter for the information from their wave energy, rather like a signal going to a mobile phone that translates that information as it hits the device so we can understand the language. And I've always asked just for yes or no, bring evidential evidence to whomever I'm reading for. But yes, they never seem to explain where they're from. They never tell me what they're doing. But I have seen the other side on 2 occasions, which is quite literally incredible. But in answer to your question, Leslie, I believe that underneath all of this, we are going through an experience. And like Star Wars, I mean, I love George Lucas and his work. He's a genius.
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back, The Return of the Jedi, those classic films that were the original ones, tells us of the Dark Force and the Jedi, and Lord Darth Vader was the complete construct of evil. But you see, without the darkness, we would never understand the light. Without hurt or pain, we would never understand love and joy. And I think
Yes.
that here on this planet, because if we came down here as happy as clams and loving each other and doing it, then of course, there's no real understanding. I'm not talking about the most horrible, horrifying atrocities. My goodness me, I can't even get my head around that. I really can't.
Yeah, same.
And that's what makes my heart bleed, literally, not for theatrics, but the truth. People say we incarnate. Yes, I understand that. But something has gone wrong. There's clearly something here in this system that's gone wrong. And there's a fight where some souls, many souls, for instance, have come in to incarnate to try and bring that light and balance things out here on this earth plane because of the evil that's going on here. And it is pure evil. And going back to that question, that these beings cannot be human because there is some spite against what we represent with spirit. And interesting how going into Gnostics, that also explains about the archons and also about their missing the vital element of what we have, which is the spirit, through and going back to the creation. I won't call it mythos, but the creation story, and also of Sophia, and of course of the Christ light, of the Godhead, the separation and the descent into matter. So I believe that we are here to love, to build, to create. And I believe more so now, because the way I'm seeing this on this earth at this time is that we are making no progression whatsoever. I know, like you, of many other light workers who would be more than happy to bring their knowledge to the world to help advance our civilizations. For instance, another example very quickly here. I've never understood in this world, oh, go and get a job, pay your taxes. Can you imagine how many billions of souls have passed where their true potential has not been explored or given the right to use? You say to someone, okay, there's a lot of people that don't want to do, anything at all. That would be normal. But there'll be a lot of people where you would feel, if you're a leader, say, what would you like to do? And what could you bring to the table to help us all? Art,
Game
agriculture.
changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Game changer.
And if you saw that on a huge scale, how amazing things would change. And we began to understand more about the love. So obviously, I believe that our genus is to do with love. but unfortunately it was contained within the negative aspects, as it were, that made that descent. But I
Um,
believe that the polarities have to be balanced.
yeah, I think that's all happening. I think probably everything is perfectly perfect, really. I myself am also like a truth seeker, and so before I became spiritual and seeking spiritual, information. I was very much a conspiracy theorist, and I was a truth seeker, and I was like trying to yell it from the rooftops of all this that they're lying to us, and like
Right.
I don't know. So I just wanted to tell everybody that I've in my spiritual awakening and in life, I've kind of gone away from that, and I learned of the law of attraction and the other laws of the universe and all this stuff, and so I have stopped focusing on the negative so much. And so that's almost like when I hear about, which I'm very aware of, like probably, evil things that are happening and who are controlling things basically for society and humanity. And, I do feel like there is suppression of our true nature and of true knowledge. And so, yes, it's this, all that's happening. But with my understanding of near death experiences, and like people actually choose to be like the bad guy or the victim in a scenario, you know what I mean? Like, and people it's really hard for people who don't have a grasp of like near death experiences and their testimonies and things like that. Like, but it helps me to understand everything and be able to accept our reality that we're in. Although I do feel like it's all, very much perspective, like you were saying, and the individual and like what they're experiencing is because of almost because of their programming, for lack of better words, and how they think or what they behaviorally adapted to from parents and whatever else. But so yeah, it's an experience. And I don't know where I was going with that, but but yeah, I was saying like what if everything's perfect and this is all how it should be, and like this is what it's all about, because this is not our real reality in the first place.
Yes, and I do believe that, like yourself and many other people, that we have light workers, warriors, because even if you go back into the past, we have the angelic kingdom, those that defend for truth. We have, beings that have always fought for the betterment of our species. And I am very much involved with the love and light aspect of it. My heart goes out to the reality, to knowing as well that we survive death and the wonderment of what we can achieve as sentient beings ourselves. Oh, without question. But you see, I am an interfering person, and I like to look and see what's going on and to try and make those connections to see where it all went wrong, if that's possibly right. And I think that arms us more knowing and having that knowledge. I myself went through a process like yourself of complete transmutation. First of all, I was very much involved within the UFO department of study. I still am today, but within its rawness and nuts and bolts aspects, still not trying to understand, still not understanding, sorry, how this was so and where they all were, where the evidence was, where the proof was. And then moving then to the, experiences that I had at close range with UFOs, and I mean close range. And then, of course, the abduction in 1989, and then moving forward then to the psychic element, which opens up another area for me of hope, of hope. And then, of course, of the reality of knowing that we do not die. And then moving even further into the UFO field, but then encompassing other areas of dynamics within the models of within theoretical content, and trying to draw connections to those other areas that we deem as the paranormal. And there are incredible connections to be made. And I believe that we are all here for a purpose. And underneath all of that, love is the most powerful element within the entire universe. It is the most incredible element that creates, that can build, that can manifest all of these wonderful things. And it has to come from a pure heart. It must come from the containment of a pure soul, of pure spirit, as it were. So I understand empathically that even myself, there have been moments where I've nearly gone, well, not out of my mind, but trying to put all of this complex information together, trying to find where I fit in all of this. What was my purpose here? Why was I here? Why was I seeing what was going on? Why were we going through this systematic chain of events that seemed to go round like a wheel with no real progression, but lies, lies, lies. But I know lastly here that inside, when you are truth, no matter those that attack you because they don't like your energy, or they want proof, that you can't bring any proof to the table because the phenomena operates outside our construction of what we call reality in the physical sense that we know. Well, I'm here and I'm truth, and there is nothing that those energies can do to me, because I know I will survive it completely and utterly, even if they are negative. And I will say to you, I had some other people attack me and tell me that the only reason that I had a negative experience back in 1989 was because I was a negative person myself. And I said, whoa, just hold those horses right there. No.
Nothing like victimizing the victim, right? Blaming the victim, I should say. Yikes.
So a lot of experimentation with consciousness, the mind, is an area that I've been doing for many long years. It does not make me an expert. I am not an expert. I am, like you, an explorer, a theorist, and trying to put those pieces together. But it does remind me that, and I've known for a long time, that these dimensions of reality are around us, and they can be brought into our field frequency of awareness once we start to send those thoughts out, because consciousness is what we really represent. It's our signaling out into the highway, or the psychic highway, as it were, into the other dimensions of awareness. But always be very careful with what you want to draw within your reality, because you will end up manifesting that reality as you see it, or as that reality folds into your reality, or merges, as it were. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? And this is why I think the system that we serve, yes, love and light and all the rest of it, but we know why they're bringing all of this negativity and fear and control, because they are bringing these darker elements into the fray and robbing the people of the right, those that don't know, to understand that they are much more than flesh and blood, and a biological entity with a sell-by date. They are much more than what this system wants them to know, because we are very powerful beings, absolutely.
I'm so glad you're having this Sorry, Leslie. I just want to say that I'm so glad you're having this conversation in like an expansive kind of way. A lot of people like to minimize things and make them seem very small, but I like how you're like, no, this is what's really going on, and we're really all made of love, and we're just source that fractaled off and is experiencing things here on Earth. And yeah, so I think ultimately I want to ask you, when do you think your psychicness started, or when did you first start to notice that you had these abilities? Was it from a kid? Did it start with your experience? Did it just slowly, gradually like occur over time? Like, how did you come into tune with that?
Well, as a kid, when I say kid, I'd say roughly around about the age of 9, 10, 11. I used to have these things happen in my mind, scenarios, and then later on, when I forgot about that, they would happen. Not good events. And of course, I thought, I thought that I was responsible in creating that. So I had a mantra that I would say, which was, whenever I saw it, I would say, no, God, no, never, God, never. Now, the psychic component came in when my maternal grandmother passed over, the same year and same month as Princess Diana.
Wow.
I think it was 1997, wasn't it? When she was,
I had just started high school.
When she was murdered, Princess Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that then, because my maternal grandmother came to me the night that she died, she was in a Somerset hospital dying of cancer, and we were here in Bedfordshire, England, Kempston, Bedfordshire, England. And she spoke to me in my head the early hours of the morning, because we'd seen her a week before. And I just woke up in the early hours of the morning and started to cry. And then her voice came in my head as clear as day. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? And then she showed me an image of her holding me and my identical twin brother as babies in her arms, which is a photograph that's in an album somewhere. And then there was silence and the phone rang. She'd passed. Then I went to go and see a medium who used to work for the FBI in America in cold soul cases. And she wiped the floor with me in a good way, because I used to be very grounded, very black and white.
Okay.
But I remembered after the 2-hour reading, I got in my car, put my head down on the steering wheel, and I cried, and it was more of a relief. So then she said to me I would be back in 2 years' time, and within the passing of 2 years, 3 other people had passed. One of a work colleague who had literally presented himself to me in full manifestation, not in a sleep state, but in full form after he had passed over. That's all
Whoa.
recorded and done. So anyway, at that point, I knew that me being a bit of a thickhead, because it must take them lot on the other side quite a lot to get it through to my skull. I went back to the medium, and then I started to develop in circle, and open circle, then closed circle. Open circle is like college, then closed circle doesn't make you special, but it's almost more refined, like a bit of university. And then I found myself in churches and God knows what. So I thought, and this will make you laugh, my goodness me, here Philip Kinsella is. Who is he? A man that believes in UFOs, and now he talks to the dead. I thought my reputation would go straight down the pan and flush all the way out.
You've graduated. Here's your tinfoil hat, Philip.
But do you know the phenomena that occurred in 1989, the experience that I had, the abduction, the shock of that opened something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was picking up on.
Yeah, and going back into the past, not because I'm making bits fit here, but there seemed to be elements of synchronization that were occurring from constant dreams of tower blocks and stone tower blocks and how to get to them, to an old property, a mansion that we used to live on the property of when we were very young, and then going forward. So I think with all of us, there are these kind of like synchronicities, these pathways, these conduits that are reminding you, saying, "Hey, Philip, wake up! You know, look and see this now. We're trying to get through to you. We're trying to tell you." And it's like, yeah, you know, I haven't quite fully got there yet. I don't think until I pass over that anything will be fully explained. But even then, I've got an argument on my hands to find out which way I'm going, whether I'm going the right way or the wrong way. They're going to send me back. So
I
have a feeling you're doing exactly what your soul plan or your blueprint, and you're playing your part and your purpose. I see that completely happening. I feel like.
I always say everything will happen when it's supposed to.
Mm.
Yes, and I believe that.
Me too.
I know also that in terms of the UFO experiences, another two major encounters occurred. There were others in between, but the major ones that occurred was the 8th of June 1998, when we had summoned a UFO at Rendlesham Forest, not just a light in the sky, but a fully formed craft.
Wow.
And then the last sighting that we had of UFOs at very close range, and I mean close range, it had been filmed by my niece. It's a long story, but these UFOs had descended. They were spherical. They were large. That was on the 9th of April 2016 at precisely 11:15 p.m. at night. And the images that my niece had caught, because we'd come back from an early birthday meal, and I drove my brother back, and my niece took my sister back in a separate car. Cold, clear night, the stars were out. My niece had seen these objects traveling towards us. She tried to phone me. I had my phone on me, but didn't answer it until afterwards when they'd gone. But she filmed them, and they've been analysed as unknowns. But so I joke and say that we haven't had any more UFO activity because perhaps my brother and I are probably a couple of old washed out old has-beens.
Oh, don't say that.
More used to them anymore. But it was incredible. And when these experiences occurred, they do come with a level of high strangeness. In fact, to the point of absolutely being stunned. I know that on the last two, not so much the 1989 event, because I was not in control of that, they were, but in terms of the UFOs, the summoning of one at Rendlesham, and that was a lot of research that occurred there for 10 years.
Yep.
And then, of course, the nights the lights descended, they called it, one channel called it. That was truly spectacular, but still gave no answers at all. But I'm like, wow, when it happens to you, it reminds you, my goodness me, there is so much more out there. That the annoying factor is that the system we serve is blatantly lying to us.
Yes, actively.
Totally, and we want to know why
with
that
effort.
is. Yeah, there could be several aspects linked with that in terms of why that is. And we even tried to get hold of those in Parliament, which would be equivalent to your Senate,
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
to get a board together, especially Theresa May, who was instrumental in the Gary McKinnon case, the guy who'd been extradited but had infiltrated, broken into systems and seen things he's not meant to have seen.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
wanted to have a meeting to put everything on the table for disclosure, to say, look, let's be transparent, let's be honest and open about all of this with you as well. Let's see what we've got. We got nothing back, nothing.
Wow. Did you possibly try to collaborate with Nick Pope?
Oh, I know Nick Pope. I mean,
Okay.
I've met him many times, been on a
Yes.
program with him, and he was linked with Georgina Bruni, who I met on one television program we had gone
Oh,
on.
okay. Nice.
And she was the author of You Can't Tell the People.
Yeah.
Sadly no longer with us, bless her. She was a
Mm.
lovely lady. And, you know, with regards to Nick and the Ministry of Defence
Yeah.
as well, too, I mean, we understand that the MOD did have a department of inquiry, but at the same token, it's smoke and mirrors. I think he would have found it very difficult to get to the ultimate truth, like many other people. It's a bit like, you know, Sculder and Mully in the X-Files. Chris
Yeah.
Carter, the
Yeah.
creator, got that right, where they had all the evidence, and at the end, it amounted to things that they thought that they was there when they knew it was there.
Yeah.
So he took an angle very much, which is part of and does occur within the annals of ufology.
Yeah.
But there's many people behind the orchestration of the cover-up. Trust me on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Oh,
there
sure.
is,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, I'm glad you mentioned somebody being an author, because you are as well. And I know that you've written quite a few different books about the aliens and the experience and consciousness and the phenomenon. So would you like to tell our audience about your books, or maybe tell them where they should start with them? What's your favorite one, why they should read it, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, most of my books are out of print now, because my twin brother and I had been contracted with other publishers before
Mhm.
Amazon came along. You signed contracts and you got your royalties and all the rest of it. You know, not much, by the way. You could just scrape the barrel with it.
Okay.
One of them was quite nice, I can tell you that now. But the books that I've got out there, I mean, there's one called Guardians of the Dead, which explores the psychic component. I self-published that on Amazon because I wanted control of that project. I didn't want someone
Sure.
taking control of it.
Sure.
And then, of course, Philip Mantle, a wonderful British ufologist, mentor, and dear friend with me and my brother. He created Flying Disc Press through Amazon, and he wanted to bring out a range of UFO books that the shops wouldn't ordinarily have within their department stores because of the diverse range of the matter.
Okay.
So there is one book called A Passage Through Eternity, The Enigma of the Dead, UFOs and Aliens, which is one I wrote. That was not through Flying Disc Press. That was another self-published one through Amazon.
Okay.
And then I wanted to go through another publisher, but then, of course, Philip Mantle offered to publish You, the Public Deceived, The Grand UFO Deception, which was primarily my major work that I was quite proud of with regards to the research in ufology. Then came Sky Crash Throughout Time, which had previously been published by another publisher in 2013, which dealt with my research and with the co-author, Brenda Butler, who was the original investigator
Yeah.
into the Rendlesham Forest event, and her book co-authored with Jenny Randerson Street, Sky Crash: A Cosmic Conspiracy. Their book was published back by Neville Spearman back in 1984.
Okay.
And then I have Terrestrial Trespassers, which is the new book and deals primarily with the rawness of the abduction I'd gone through, but also several other experiences, but also then looking into these areas of high strangeness, a little bit of cryptozoology, a few other people's cases in there, and then formulating several theoretical components of what we may be dealing with. I have never stated ever, not once, that this is what it is. I have always remained very open to all forms of speculation, because let me make this very clear. I do not know the answer. All we have are theories, and also the measurements through contacts that people have had, not just myself, but not only in ufology, but also cryptozoology and near-death studies. So, you know, not just, you know, I have been looking into the near-death situation for many long years, and certainly, you know, I think there's a lot to be said between the abduction phenomena and
Mhm.
also NDE research, which I formulated back in 1996. It doesn't make me a key component to say I did that, but I made the parallels between the greys and what they may represent and what they're really, a faction of them are after through us.
Yeah.
So I believe that's another area that is very highly structured, complex. But there again, I think the whole phenomena is. But I am very honored to be linked with wonderful minds. All of us are instrumental with the unfolding of our reality. No one is right and no one is wrong. We have our own beliefs, our structured paths. We are
Yes.
all important instruments. Everyone's trying to slap someone else down and saying, you've got to see it my way. Well, unfortunately, there are many ways to the truth. There are many
Yeah.
pathways to that truth and many experiences that lead you as the individual to that truth, to your truth.
Right. Right.
I love that you're reminding our audience of that. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's
Philip?
hard enough dealing with all of it, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't make me an expert. I've been in the game, as they call it, for a long time. Even when I was 13, after the UFO sighting with our maternal
Mhm.
grandmother with a silver orb in broad daylight in there, they lived in a big house in Middlesex, and me, my twin brother, my grandmother, and that was incredible. And that then opened things up for me. I started going to the library, and a very few publications sat on the shelves. I think one was on Roswell, it was, and the Roswell crash. And I have that book. I did get the original copy of that when it
Okay.
first came out, and one on the Loch Ness Monster. So even as a 13-year-old, my mind was like, I want to know. And even to the point, just very quickly here, my grandmother bought me a paperback book of a UFO. I think I was about 14. It was a big, thick paperback, and it was by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the
Ah.
UFO reporter. But
Oh.
on the front cover was a flying saucer in the sky. I wanted the book because I loved the cover. My grandmother bought it for me, but I couldn't understand a word inside it. But I loved the cover.
Okay.
I can understand it now, obviously, but
Sure.
Yeah.
that
Well,
was
J.
kind of
Allen
sweet.
Hynek is, yeah, he's probably a little bit difficult for a 13-year-old to comprehend.
Absolutely, yes. I love the picture, though. The picture really kind of did it for me. And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
look at that. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. Ooh.
And they say don't judge a book by its cover, but look at how much that cover did for you.
Yeah. Right.
Did
Right.
it
Great that
indeed,
Uh-huh.
your
yeah.
grandmother actually bought that for you too. I mean, she must have had
Yes, that's that. Yes, Leslie, absolutely. And another area of high strangeness because she was psychic as well. And
Ooh.
I've never been in that situation where I was able to ask if she'd seen anything more than the event that we had. But very strange because when we asked her what it was that we were viewing, and it had come down so low because they had a 3-story high house. It was a huge house, and it hovered roughly where the second floor windows were.
That close?
Yeah,
Wow.
oh yes, that close.
Wow.
Completely
What?
spherical. There was no sound. Yeah, oh yes, it's been documented. I mean,
Wow.
you know, go on about it. But
Okay.
it made no sound. It was like now I think it was like one of those Foo Fighters, one of those probe things, or like my brother called it.
Mm.
But she said, my grandmother said, "Oh look, the fairies have come to take a close look at us."
The who? The what
The
word?
fairies.
Yeah,
Fairies?
she wasn't
Fairies.
even phased by it.
Oh,
She wasn't
fairies.
even
Okay.
phased. No, she wasn't even phased by it. It didn't
Wow.
phase her.
That's awesome.
No.
So,
No.
where do you see the future of spiritual and extraterrestrial understanding heading in the next decade?
Well, it all depends on the attitudes, the mental attitudes of the general public. I think it's wonderful to see that there are many more people, many more now than ever before, who are finding their inner selves, their true selves. They're expanding out
Mhm.
into areas of love and light, into areas of interdimensional communication, ultra-terrestrial communication, understanding now the importance of those dimensions of reality which can fold and merge into our reality, no different than a signal going into your mobile phone. It hits the construct and bang, there it is. It's in there, yeah? It's translating. People are like, oh, you know, they say, I don't like the look of you. But hang on just a minute. Mobile phones all look different, but the signals are the same, except the signals are carrying different information. I think, Leslie, and you know, I think that the way this is going is that we are now fighting more so than ever before with a system that is losing its grip because the people are like, no, no,
The house of cards
are-
is crumbling,
yeah.
right?
that's right. We are
Yeah.
moving our own way. We don't need your help anymore. We're going to move our way. We're going to group together and,
Yep.
you know, in our varied groups and organizations, and we're going to push ourselves away from this negativity. But for me, it's important that I've had to explore that in order to understand it.
Sure.
And when you understand something, they always say, don't they? Keep those that you know close to you, and your enemies even closer.
Keep your friends
Because you know
close,
what's
but your
going on.
enemies
Yeah.
closer. Yep.
And it reminded me in the series that I watched that was very good of Obi-Wan, this series called Obi-Wan. And in that wonderful series that I bought on DVD, and I was hooked by all of it, especially the Vader scene with at the end with him and Obi-Wan having that terrible fight, but good and evil. But there was one bit in there that made me think. There was a lovely, beautiful lady in there who was dressed up like one of the bad guys, you know, one of the commanders. But she was actually working for the good, for the rebels, and she remained undercover. And I thought how it reminds me of a lot of us, like, you know,
Yeah, I was just thinking that's like us.
in finding out all the secrets, finding out what's going on, and then helping those others. And it's kind of like that because that's how we're operating. It is sad, I think, and Phil, that within this life that we incarnate with hardly any memory of where our sovereignty
For
began.
real, right? Don't you think
but-
that information would be a little bit helpful?
Yeah. But I think that, you know, otherwise there would be an overload, a psychic overload. We wouldn't be able to handle it. But it is stored within the etheric or the body
Akashic
or the memories.
records, yeah.
You got it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So
I
we
think
have
it
to
has
come
something
in.
to do with filtering through the human body. Like
That's
only
right.
handles so
Yeah.
much.
You got it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
people do have memories, as I do, and many other people do, of not just past lives. You know, most of mine were Western times. I was always poor and broke. I never fared very well each incarnation, I'm afraid. I had no money, nothing. I was just a skivvy. But, you know, I think that we come, all of us, to a point where we're all part of the same thing and we're working towards that grand plan. But I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful to know that we could look at someone else and see God, the divine, through the eyes of someone else, or through a child, or someone
Yes.
doing a deed that is so incredible that moves you to the point of you
Mhm.
can't express it or explain it, and it kind of like transforms into what you ultimately want to represent on that level. So I think that ultimately, you know, we're here for many lessons, but I'm still going to get a refund when I get to the other side, and I'll say to them, please don't send me back down to earth. It's very tiresome and it's very challenging and
It's
taxing.
exhausting,
And by
right?
the way, taxing is definitely underscore there. Yes.
Yeah, it has a dual meaning.
But
I think
the
this is
ironic thing, from my
Gotta be.
understanding, is that we chose to come here. Nobody sent us.
Right, right.
What do you think about that part?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, there's no way that we would come here willy-nilly. I mean, it's rather like someone, you know, being on a ship and then saying, right, I want you to get to that deep sea diving equipment and get down to that ocean. They wouldn't have a clue. They'd have to have some pre-planning beforehand. I agree, but I believe that when the soul, or the spirit rather, and the soul comes into the harsh vibrational connection with this realm, there is a purpose and a reason why we're here. And we may be fighting with that, being challenged with that on a conscious level. But all, I believe, will be made clear when we've finished our journey. We hear this from near-death experiences where they can understand through, not only through the panoramic life review or the sharing of information of how things are and how things were and how things will be, but every one of them are blessed. Because this is only a small part of existence. We are walking a tiny path of time. It is shocking. It really is. Time is our enemy. It's running out for all of us the moment we're born.
Yeah.
So I believe that when we return back to the reality of where we come from, they're still going to kick my ass. And I'm just going to say, you know, I'll try and do a little bit better next time, but please give me a long. Have we got a couple of billion years to
Can I
leave?
have a little bit of a sabbatical in between, please?
And I know I've got a wicked sense of humor, but there I'm a human. I say, can you please show me where the real spirits are? Not your. I'd like to go and have a drink.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I don't drink anyway, but anyway, it's a joke.
Right, right. So with that being said, what would you say your greatest hope for the future of humanity is?
That this evil and control will stop. That we as a species work together, understanding on a deeper level the sovereignty of how important we all are. These wars, this destruction, this hatred, this violence serves
Yeah.
no purpose. We can all
Oh.
build a better future. And I believe that when more people are able to raise their vibrations to the correct frequency, that all of this will pass by. And this is exactly why there is a force here that is opposed to that, that does not want that, but knows it. I believe that, we are here, I think, to remind others that there is a war going on here, a silent war. I said that before, and that we are all working towards love and light, to truth, to the betterment of our species, because I believe that as a race we were created and it wasn't meant to be this way. I think that things have gone wrong. It's been infected, and we are now the antibodies, as it were, that is trying to bring about that balance, that correction. The cancer must be removed in the betterment. It's a painful process. It's going to be very painful, but we can begin to heal. Many people can heal through that process. So I believe that we are all important instruments, the unfolding of our reality, that we are brilliant beings of light, and that's what we are, because light is vibration, and we are real, we exist beyond death, what's called death, and that we are more than just human. We are not just human.
That was a beautiful answer. Thank you.
Philip, do me a favor for our audience that may want to work with you or look into your investigations, look at your book, stuff like that. Please drop all your.
He also offers readings, right? I was looking at the website.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. So tell our audience what you offer, where they can go to find you. Drop your link. Spill the tea.
Yeah, well, I've never really advertised. I mean, people come to me, but we had to create a website because we couldn't handle the bookings. My niece was trying to get all the bookings, so we thought, well, we'll just leave it there for people. Then people say, where can I do it? So that's on www.philipkinsella.com, Philip with one L. And my brother's and mine own website is www.thekinsellatwins.com. Quite simple. So there's two websites there. I know I'm Instagram and Facebook, which we all are, and you can find me on, the search engine, Philip Kinsella UFO or Philip Kinsella Psychic, whatever. But I'm very honored. I'm very grateful for all of the wonderful souls and the minds that I've been able to link with and still link with. There's so many people, not just here in England, but also in your great country, like Kathleen Martin, Peter Robbins, Earl Grey Anderson of Newfound, Dr. Arena Scott in America, used to work for the Patel section. So many, and here in England, again, Philip Mantle, I could go on, but, that what is beautiful is that we all connect together. And we sometimes have our disagreements, not horribly, but we sometimes don't agree with something, and I think that is human nature. As long as we can be gentlemanly or ladylike about it, we're absolutely fine. It's good to have intellectual debate. We must debate, because intellectualism is something that is fast disappearing, and we have to keep that going, because it also inspires, it makes us think, and it may promote another model that can be created as something that's a problem between one and the other.
Yeah.
So, it's not all about, a particular person or someone wants exclusive rights to the phenomena and be all famous and knighted and all the rest of it. No. We are all part of the phenomenon. We are the phenomena itself.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, Philip. Wow, I really feel that our audience is going to soak this conversation up like a sponge. It was really great. I love how expansive it was. I love how you continuously reminded us that we're all part of this. It's not just one person claiming the whole thing for themselves.
Right.
No, like we're all in it together. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I enjoyed our conversation.
And Justin and Leslie and Ali, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And I'm sure that Ali, you'll later on, I won't be able to reply today, but send me an email and then we can sort it out for Justin for our discussion. Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for our audience that's still sticking around, please make sure to do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Much love, peace and namaste.